Hello, my name is Ben,
And my name's Josh.
and welcome back to FPL Graduates, and welcome back to another video. We're going to be looking into our Game Week 29 selection team. It's a big game week, doubles galore. Let's see how we're getting into it.
Okay, so we're going to go through my team first. At the minute, we are ranked just outside the top 5k. Didn't captain Saka last week, so that really did hurt me. I also only owned 2 Arsenal players as well. So, yeah, we're going to go into the team. I think I have 11 doublers in total. So Kepa in goal, Villa at home, Liverpool at home as well. So 2 home fixtures. I'm mainly expecting the save points there from Kepa. Obviously, Liverpool versus Chelsea earlier in the season was 0-0 as well. I think Villa are a better side going forward than most maybe give them credit as well. So I don't necessarily see them keeping too many clean sheets, just hoping for those save points. A back four of Trippier, Henry, Mings and Chilwell, obviously all double. Trippier, United at home, West Ham away. I think, you could get returns in both there. Henry, Brighton away, United away. That Brentford defensive assets, they are really tough fixtures on paper. So whether we get much out of them, we'll wait and see. Mings as well, Chelsea away, Leicester away. Again, 2 away fixtures, not ideal, but I think Villa have been playing, playing a lot better since Unai Emery's come into charge. And obviously, Mings last week got me 12 points, so I can't complain too much. Chilwell, Aston Villa at home, Liverpool at home. Midfield of Maddison, Rashford on the captaincy at the minute. We'll go through captaincy towards the end of this video. McAllister and Matoma as my Brighton double up. And then Kane and Tony up top as well. And then obviously the bench, we've got Raya, as I mentioned, with that Brentford double up in defence. It's not looking ideal, but could be maybe one of my transfers. Bukayo Saka, Zinchenko, and obviously Erling Haaland. So that is the team. I think it looks okay on paper. There's a couple of fixtures that I really don't like. But yeah, what's your thoughts, Ben?
Yeah, it's a decent team, and obviously the main question going through everyone's heads is, are you going to bench boost this week? And is that a plan in your thoughts at the moment? Because at the moment, as it stands, it's looking like a pretty template starting 11, with a couple of differentials sort of sprinkled in there with sort of Tyrone Mings. You expect probably the Brentford guys to be slightly more differential come the deadline. And then obviously there's a few that are selling Haaland as well. Is the plan for your team to bench boost?
Yeah, it's already active for me. So as you can see, it's got the awful line that they've put around it this year. It looked so much better in years gone by, but I am bench boosting. I think even with those single game week players, I'd probably be happy to bench boost that bench. I think Arsenal against Leeds at home could be similar to that Crystal Palace game of a 4-4-1, something of those lines. I think transfers wise for me, I'd maybe look to get rid of one of Henry or Raya, whether that be for Steele or someone like that. I find it really difficult at where to use. I only have 1 free transfer, so it's sort of like picking the poison, seeing where to use it, because I will be free hitting in game week 32. So it's not necessarily the teams that matter who I bring in, but it'll just be nice to try and maximize those points at this stage of the season.
Okay, so into my team now, and obviously the rank isn't as good. 285,000 overall. It's not the best. It's not the worst though. We were ranked sort of at 700,000 in rank at just game week 16. So we've massively come on in terms of our rank overall in the last few weeks. But this is how the team is looking going into this game week. Obviously in goal we kept Kepa and Raya. It's looking likely that I'm going to hit that bench boost. Obviously, wait and see on a few injury news and that sort of thing. But I think a bench boost with potential, we'll see what we'll do with the transfers in a little bit. But yeah, in defence, we've got Estepinian there from Brighton. Obviously, he's playing sort of an international break. We'll see how he gets on there. But I'm happy having a Brighton defensive asset in my team. We've got the Newcastle double up of Trippier and Botman. Hopefully they, like Josh said, can get at least 1 return out of those 2. We've also currently got Ben White in there as well, with a midfield of James Maddison, who looks very good over the international break, as did Bukayo Saka. And then we've got sort of Rashford and Solly March in there, and Kane and Tony up front. So we've got quite a few doublers in there. We've got Henry on the bench at the moment for the doublers, with Martinelli and Haaland. A lot of what sort of fantasy managers are going to decide on doing is going to be based on sort of the injuries and that sort of thing. But that's how we're looking with 2 free transfers going into game week 29. Josh, what are your thoughts? Is this a good position to be in, or are there some weaknesses in this team that could result in a red arrow this week?
No, I think you're in a great spot. Obviously, those 2 free transfers equally like open up you to so much more opportunity as well. Like you can make some maybe luxurious transfers like Bruno Fernandes. A lot of people are looking towards for this double game week in particular. I think it'll be interesting with the injuries. I don't think the injuries are too bad. Obviously, Marcus Rashford has been in America just on holiday with his girlfriend by the looks of things. So I think he'll be fine. Haaland, maybe not so fine. I think he was in Marbella, as what I've read, seeking treatment out there. So whether it's actually treatment or he just needs a little bit of sun, we'll have to wait and see come the press conferences. I don't see him missing such a massive game for City. Obviously, they're without Foden now as well because he's had his appendix done. So they need Haaland there. Otherwise, that's going to be looking like a lackluster front line for Manchester City. So yeah, I think it'd be interesting. What's your thoughts on transfers? Is there anyone in particular that you're looking at getting out?
For myself and my transfers this week, obviously the main standout is here that I've not got a triple up on Brighton, and last week, and the week before, I actually haven't. Even for that last Brighton double, I didn't have a triple up on them and came away with a green arrow. So that's always good. So the likelihood is that for my transfers, it's going to be Martinelli out. As much as I don't want to do it, it's a single game week fixture over an informed Brighton with a couple of decent fixtures, to say the least. So my initial thoughts are between Mitoma and McAllister. I'm leaning more towards Mitoma just as a sort of safer pick for rank. I do think as well he's a lot more clinical and sort of gets into those areas where he's getting chances to score. Obviously, McAllister on penalties changes things a little bit. And then the other transfer will probably be Ben White coming out for Arsenal as well. Obviously, over the last few weeks, they've kept clean sheets, but they haven't been convincing. They do tend to, if they get ahead, they can leak a goal or two as well, which is why we've seen sort of over the last few weeks, sometimes we've come away feeling a bit disappointed with the Arsenal defensive assets, especially last week against Palace. They could have really come away with a clean sheet, but didn't in the end. So Ben White could easily go to someone like Chilwell or Luke Shaw.
So we're going to run through who are the top predicted point scorers for Game Week 29, courtesy of Fantasy Football Hub. If you haven't already, make sure you check them out. The link is in the description. Me and Ben use this tool just to really just see who we should be maybe bringing in for transfers, but also for captaincy. Obviously, it's really difficult to decide who to captain, especially in this double game week, because there's so many good players with so many good fixtures. So who are you initially leaning towards, Ben, before seeing the predicted points?
So before seeing the predicted points, leaning a lot more towards Rashford. I do think sort of the Manchester United fixtures are decent. I think as well he's the in-form man. He's had a little bit of a rest over the international break with obviously pulling out the England squad. We'll wait and see on how he actually is. I mean, we'll get a good idea of whether he's going to play or not in Ten Hag sort of pre-match press conference. But in terms of other captaincy choices, I'd probably lean towards the Brighton guys just because of that really nice fixture against Bournemouth away, as well as having that Brentford at home fixture, which is any bonus if they pick anything out of that. So my thoughts are generally Rashford, Solly March, Mitoma, McAllister. I've thought about Bruno Fernandes, but I think for a lot of people, they may struggle to get Bruno Fernandes in just because he's that higher price point midfielder, and you're trying to get 2 Brighton midfielders, Rashford, Saka, and another player in. I think there's going to have to be somewhere where you go, look, I'm not going to get him in. But in terms of the outstanding ones, I'm looking at Rashford, March, Mitoma. What do you think, Josh? Is there any sort of out there that I sort of haven't covered and you think could be a decent shout for captaincy?
I think as a consensus, it will be Rashford or a Brighton asset. I think for the majority, I don't necessarily see people going too far afield otherwise, because I just don't think the fixtures are there necessarily. I think one player that we haven't mentioned so far, though, is potentially James Maddison. His fixtures, arguably on paper, are the best. Obviously, the only issue is that Leicester maybe aren't in as good form as the likes of Brighton and United in terms of going forward. So in terms of this list, obviously Bruno Fernandes is topping it at 10.5 predicted points. The guy doesn't miss a minute for United. So, if you're looking at reliability, he is the man to have. And if you can get him, I would probably strongly urge you to go for him. It's just that for the likes of me and Ben, you've seen our teams. It's very, very hard, even for Ben with 2 transfers, to move to Bruno Fernandes without having to take away, one of those more premium options. So, and I found that as well. Like, even if I took out Saka and Zinchenko, I would end up with Bruno and then, like a £4 million defender. And I just don't think it's necessarily worth it. I think Bukayo Saka is an asset that's worth keeping, even though he doesn't double at the minute. Just because, he's on penalties, he's in crazy form. He's definitely worth being in your team. But James Maddison, 10.1 predicted points on Fantasy Football Hub. Villa at home, Palace away. Palace struggling. Obviously, Hodgson in charge now. I think there could be some good fixtures. Maybe I probably wouldn't captain necessarily because the ownership won't be there. And at my rank personally, you definitely have to take effective ownership into consideration, in my opinion, if you're trying to gain rank and stuff like that. But I think if you're looking for a differential captaincy option, I think James Maddison is definitely a good option.
Okay, so that rounds up our Game Week 29 team reveals. Obviously, there's a lot to play and a lot of time before that deadline. We're going to be finalising our picks. Be the first to know it in our Telegram.
Yeah, and if you haven't already, make sure you check us out on all socials, the Instagram, TikTok, the lot. Thank you for tuning in as well on YouTube. There'll be a lot more content coming your way towards the end of this season.
Yeah, and as always, I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
And we'll see you guys
later. Have a good game week, everyone.